often the most difficult yet necessary conversations we have are not always with those who agree with us, but those who disagree with us. And I believe Martin Luther King's stance again with the Occupy Wall Street movement will be one of those difficult conversations that is very necessary to have. When I think of the tens of thousands of protesters who occupy streets, who occupy buses, who occupy courts, who occupy lines for voters' registration, who occupy jail cells in the name of social equity, I don't see race. I don't see a color. I don't see religion. What I see are hearts. I see combined consciences. I see humans. Humans that don't want others to lower their standards by any percent. I see humans that simply want to level the playing field, but not with a fist, not with a weapon, but with their voice. Because, as Martin Luther King said, riot is the language of the unheard. Now, when I say level the playing field, I mean basically getting what's yours. Every single person, when they are born on this world, they have value, simply for existing. That's called intrinsic value. Intrinsic value that Martin Luther King Jr. shed light upon. Because who could deny a person of money to feed their family just because they don't have the same economic worth as someone else does? Why do I think Martin Luther King would support the Occupy Wall Street movement? The Poor People's Campaign of '68. He was directly working with people to remove and target the low income rates, the low job rates, and he was tackling poverty. And I think that he would most definitely agree with the Occupy Wall Street movement because of this. Now, the Declaration of Independence says we all have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But Martin Luther King once said, without a job, without income, a man has no life, no liberty, and does not have a possibility for the pursuit of happiness. He exists. Now, the Occupy movement wasn't just in Wall Street. It was in Cleveland, where I'm from. It was in Detroit. I've seen it on the news. It was in every single place in the United States. It was in every town of every country, every town of every city of every state in the United States. But one thing I've noticed remains constant, the slogan, we are the 99%. 1% of us owns more than the majority of the wealth in the United States. 1% of the population can say, hey, corporations are people now, apparently. 1% of the population has more money than we could possibly imagine. 1%. Money is spread out like cornfields in New York City. Now, when I think of how Martin Luther King would address the opponents of Occupy Wall Street, I think of how he would address the opponents of the Civil Rights Movement. Martin Luther King once said, if we do not learn to live together as brothers, we will perish together as fools. Now, I understand the sole purpose of business is to make money, but that should not be at the cost of an arm, a leg, your soul, your morals, or anything, or another person's livelihood. And I believe Martin Luther King would agree with the fact that the government and corporate interests and greed should stay completely separate. Now, you must consider the SNCC, SNCC. Now, this was students, this was young people, young educated people working with each other for one common goal, which they did achieve. The freedoms that we see today, the freedoms to vote, the freedoms to just peacefully assemble because of the color of our skin, those freedoms that we so relish now, that we take for granted for some reason. And I believe Occupy Wall Street is doing the exact same thing. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want their voice to be heard. And that's exactly the same way with SNCC. Now, in LA and Detroit, we see people being trampled. We see all types of violence that we should not be seeing on public TV. We see random acts of violence. We see elderly people being tased to death, maced to death, you name it. Now, they're tired. Simply put, they're tired. They're tired that student loans will follow a man to his grave. They're tired that a company will lay you off just so they can earn a couple bucks at the end of the month. They are simply tired. Now, I have a quote that I've made. In one sentence today, I believe Martin Luther King would say that the 99% is perishing on an island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity controlled by the 1%. And I'll say that again. The 99% is perishing on an island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity controlled by the 1%. This is social injustice. That's what this is. It could be seen as economic, but this is social. It wasn't about race. This is completely social. We all have intrinsic value. We're humans. I can't say another person is worse than me because of the way they were born and how they were born. We're all humans. Same anatomy, same DNA, same structure. We're humans, and that's how we should treat each other, as humans. not by race, not by a license plate on your card, simply as humans. Now, I will leave you with a quote from the woman, I believe, who wrote, "The eyes were seeing God. If you remain silent in pain, they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it.